From the police state to tectonic plates, touch sense and tattoo take the temperature of tyranny on Freedom Frequency 1871, coming to you live now.
This is America. We have a founding fathers that wrote a constitution that we haven't lived by in 142 years.
Were they serious when they said they planned on owning the weather by 2025?
And if you're not pissed off, there's something wrong with you right now.
Have you guys seen what's going on outside your door lately? Need I remind you?
This is America. Are y'all going to allow it to be Russia?
doTERRA Essential Oils, true gifts of the earth, provide you with the perfect prepper tool, the Family Physician Kit. 10 certified pure therapeutic grade oils to provide the support you need for your family's wellness goals when sheltering in place or bugging out. Visit essentialnewparadigm.info and ask how you can receive $100 in free product and 25% off each and every order. Don't delay. Your family's health depends on you. Health depends on you.
Thanks for listening to FPRN. Don't forget to check us out on Facebook and Twitter. If you'd like to start your own show with FPRN, advertise with us, or donate to the network or to your favorite shows, check out our website at www.fprnradio.com.
Welcome back to Freedom Frequency 1871. This is again your host, Dutch Sense. And I think we still have Tattooed on the line.
I'm here.
Excellent, brother. And for the last 30 minutes, I was just going over the basics foundations for this HAARP program, the High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program up in Alaska, and it's just part one of many. We're only talking about the U.S. here. I mean, there are other facilities around the world. The Air Force owning the Weather 2025 we were going into before the break, and that's talking about what we want to do. Now, that's not taking into account what the Russians want to do, or the Europeans, or the Chinese, or let's say the Australians. Again, that takes us back to, in Australia, that S-shaped radar signature that appeared off the coast, south of the Harold Holt Exmouth station. There's a viewer, somebody in the chat was saying, could you mention the action off the west coast of Australia in the strange S-shape? They've been seeing a signal for over a year, different events. Australia has partnered up with the U.S. They are our South Pole partner when it comes to radio frequency. In order to understand this, in order to understand what our current capabilities are, and to understand HAARP and to understand radar pulses, and to basically understand the whole process, I could break it down to you as your kitchen microwave, for instance. We're all familiar with putting a cup of water or a cup of coffee into the microwave, and it is bombarded with high-powered microwaves inside of a Faraday cage, inside of a box that protects you. It grabs the frequency that's hitting your food and stops it from hitting you and takes it back to ground. And we are not shocked to find out that radio frequency will heat up our cup of coffee. Now, if you turn around your microwave on the back side, you will see a bunch of numbers. Now, my microwave in my kitchen is a $20 Walmart special white microwave, and it is 2.35 gigahertz at 1,000 watts. Now, that sounds technical, okay? Let me put it in perspective for you. Your cell phone, let's say it's running at 1.9 gigahertz at 0.5 watts or less, 0.005 watts. Now, the difference, of course, is the power. The power is the difference. So in other words, you're talking on a small version of a microwave transmitter. The same bandwidth, let's say. Okay? Now, inside of your microwave, it's 1,000 watts. And it heats up your cup of coffee at a few inches away. It is bombarded with radio frequency, and the molecules are excited, and your coffee heats up. Okay? To explain HAARP and radar, let's say the NEXRAD radar, or the radar, I don't know what the radar down in Australia is operating at, but I assume it would be in the same bandwidth, let's say. same rough bandwidth. Our current NEXRAD radar is pumping at 2 gigahertz. The same 2 gigahertz that's pumping in your microwave in your kitchen. The same 2.45 gigahertz that's pumping from your Wi-Fi router. The same 2.45 gigahertz that your Bluetooth is operating on is the same 2.45 gigahertz that's going out 100 miles and giving us a large microwave radar pulse that we're seeing on radar. Now, HAARP operates not in the microwave band, but in the high frequency band. And to explain this, there's different levels of radio frequency. You've got high frequency, very high frequency, ultra high frequency, and you also go down the other way. You can go down to low frequency, ultra low frequency, extremely low frequency, and I'm sure there'll be future discoveries. Okay?
The numbers go infinity in both directions. We may not be able to transmit there, but they go forever. The numbers never stop.
Correct. Just like a number can go on forever, just like pi can be computed forever, we're talking about that I personally believe that they will make future discoveries that go even further than what we currently have, with, especially in the low frequency band. I think they're going to find that there's much lower they can go, and much higher. Start getting it up into gamma and beyond. They're going to have to develop new terms to describe these things. Now, to describe how radio frequency heats something up, we could say, everyone's familiar with don't put metal into a microwave. Right? If you put metal into a microwave, a piece of aluminum foil, it starts to spark. Now, what's happening is literally a stripping of electrons. If you put that piece of tinfoil into your microwave, do not do this because it'll spark and it could cause a fire. But the radio frequency hits that metal and it starts stripping electrons from the metal, from the piece of aluminum that you put in there. The stripping of electrons produces the little lightning bolts that you see. It's a simple process, stripping electrons. Now, what we've found out, and what in 3 years worth of study, and now the science community is starting to acknowledge, is, and the producer, I think, we were looking at Air Force owning the weather 2025. Right below that is a picture of a green laser. Okay, it's a green laser pulse, a red laser turning into, and it's illuminated by green light. That's why you're seeing this. And what you're seeing in this picture, and I can describe it to you guys, is a small red laser that goes out into a greenish-looking cloud. And what this is, and I'm going to ask the producer to go ahead and play this whole clip. It's several minutes long, but it's worth the listen, because this is going to explain to you how it's done. And it's not going to be explained to you by me. It's going to be explained to you by somebody that you'll believe. Michio Kaku on ABC News, where Michio Kaku got up this past year, end of 2013, and acknowledged that they have certain devices already capable of manipulating the weather called high-powered lasers. Now, high-powered lasers and high-powered microwaves are part of the U.S. overall Directed Energy Warfare Program out of the U.S. Naval Directed Energy Warfare Office. The DWO, the DEWO, the Directed Energy Warfare Office, is developing a series of directed energy weapons having to do from everything from disabling aircraft and shooting things down to weather modification. Michio Kaku gets on TV and tells the world potential uses for this include, let's say, if you're having a wedding and you want to have a nice wedding, you could pay for the weather to be modified using high-powered lasers. Now, let's go quickly back, before we watch this, let's go quickly back to my example of your kitchen microwave. Your kitchen microwave working at 1,000 watts, 2.45 gigahertz, just like your Bluetooth, just like your Wi-Fi, only more powerful, okay? And it's heating up your coffee. NEXRAD radar, our weather radar, where we're seeing these giant radar pulses, or HAARP rings, as we call them, slang term, that's operating at 750,000 watts. 750 times more powerful than your kitchen microwave, pulsing out into the atmosphere. Now, these high-powered lasers are going up into the billions and trillions of watts. To put this in perspective, power-wise, U.S. is specifically pursuing lasers currently, and they admit it. Let's go ahead and watch this clip. Go ahead and play the whole thing. Listen to what he says, guys. because this is what I've been saying for 3 years and not believed. But now here they come out and admit that frequency, radio frequency, specifically a laser, will strip ions and cause precipitation. And go ahead and cue that up.
Are looking at how to change the weather on purpose. That's right. Lasers now could one day manipulate rain and lightning. CBS This Morning contributor Michio Kaku is a physics professor at City College of New York. Professor, nice to see you. Extraordinary seeing Al Gore and Bill Clinton there together with Charlie, wasn't it?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, they did not get into this discussion,
no.
though. But it is fascinating. I mean, lasers, really, to change the weather?
That's right. Well, as Mark Twain once famously said, everyone complains about the weather, but no one ever does anything about it. Well, instead of doing a rain dance, we physicists are firing trillion-watt lasers into the sky to actually precipitate rain clouds and actually bring down lightning bolts. This is potentially a game changer.
But this is experimental.
It's experimental. However, in the laboratory so far it works. When you have water vapor and you have dust particles or ice crystals, you can precipitate rain. It condenses around the seeds. These seeds can also be created by laser beams. By firing trillion-watt lasers, you rip apart the electrons, creating what are called ions, and these ions act like seeds, like dust particles, bringing down rain and even lightning.
Go ahead.
Well, this fascinates me in part because, too, I remember reading the stories that China had used this during the Olympics, that the USSR had used this after Chernobyl to create rain clouds. I mean, did those really work then? We have some of these capabilities now?
Inconclusive. Even in the 60s, the CIA used this to bring down monsoons during the Vietnam War, to wash out the Viet Cong. Governments have been playing with this thing.
Alleged to.
Alleged to, right.
Yeah.
Now, we realize that for decades now, these governments have been alleged to have experimented with weather control, but nothing conclusive. This time we're bringing in the laws of physics rather than simply waving our hands and uttering mumbo jumbo. We're actually using trillion-watt lasers now. And in the laboratory, sure enough, they precipitate rain out of water vapor. Sure enough, you can actually bring down electricity down the beam.
So what does it mean for drought areas that need to have rain for crops? And if they don't have them, there's the consequences of famine.
Well, the bad news is if it's a clear blue sky, it's not going to do anything at all, because it only takes water vapor that's already in the air and condenses it. However, for floods, for agriculture, for farmers, for people planning wedding parties, football games, you name it, outdoor events and agriculture and flooding and even hurricanes, all of them could be subject to weather modification.
Incredibly interesting, Professor Michio Kaku. Thank you so much.
Well, there you go. Now, he described the process to you using trillion-watt lasers. Firing a laser, it strips the electrons, it causes electron precipitation, which
I got something I want to say. Did everybody notice how they seriously corrected him and said, ledge to?
1960s.
I just wanted to bring that to everybody's knowledge.
High-powered lasers in the 1960s used by the CIA to make it rain in Cambodia. That's them, guys. That isn't conspiracy talk here. And you heard Michio Kaku, and if you could see his face, he's got a smirk. He's got a smirk on his face when he's saying that, okay? And she's laughing too. Now, they bring up the Russians in Chernobyl. Right next to Chernobyl, they built the Russian woodpecker, the giant antenna array. Now, they are aware that ionization can be generated using radio frequency. Not using lasers, but using radio frequency. The Russians didn't build a huge high-powered laser there at Chernobyl. They built a giant radio frequency station, a giant antenna that looks like a big movie theater screen outside, but it's all metal, and it's pointing in one direction, right towards where they need it to hit. Now, they can hit all over the world with these devices, depending on whether they use over-the-horizon reflection and if they use relay stations, like a radar station, let's say, to generate a mirror in the atmosphere. But it's not a mirror you can see. It's a radio frequency mirror to literally reflect a signal further over the horizon. And you can literally reflect a signal around the world, not using satellites, but just using frequency itself, frequency upon other frequency, frequency hitting plasma, reflecting off it, and sending it on down the road. And that's what we're talking about here. Now, he brings up trillion-watt lasers. This is what they're talking about on ABC, okay? Right? So you know that if they're talking about the trillion-watt lasers, and this is what they have as going back to the 1960s, we can scroll down one more, and there's another post from CNN in 1985. And this is a very, very interesting piece. We don't have the time to play this now. It's almost 15 minutes long. But what you're going to see if you come through this post, which I will link down below on any video that I put out regarding this, that you will see CNN in 85 talking about Tesla howitzers. Now, there's the name Tesla. What's Tesla doing in here? What we're going to get into here in just a little bit is the connection between Tesla, wireless transmission of power, going back to the late 1800s, transmitting power wirelessly using frequency. And that ties in with the experiments currently being done at HAARP, where they're trying to transmit lightning at a ground level and control fire at a ground level. But in 85, CNN talking about setting off volcanoes, creating earthquakes, manipulating entire weather patterns, and the fact that the Soviets have beat us to the punch, and that they already have all the technology, and we need to immediately start developing it. This is 85. Now, you'll remember Star Wars. Remember Star Wars? Ronald Reagan. Well, by 1988, they've rolled out NexRad, Next Generation Radar. Well, NexRad developed by the U.S. military. NexRad having a pulse capability. A missile defense capability, possibly? Well, before we get into that, we're going to have to go down and play one more video. Now, directly below this, producer, there's a shot of a laser cannon, a white laser cannon mounted on a U.S. Navy ship. The U.S. Navy and the U.S. Army have rolled out a series of directed energy devices capable of shooting down incoming mortars. Mortars, guys, we're not talking just planes. They have a truck-mounted version that's capable of taking out incoming rounds. They're talking about being able to take out bullets in the next few years. Melt the incoming bullets before they ever reach the troops. I'm not joking. We can watch the video. The video's here, producer. If you want to click on it, it's the white laser cannon, and we'll only play the first 3.5 minutes. And that'll take us pretty much right up here to the second break, where I hope we'll be getting to callers at some point here, but I'm not even one half of the way down my front page of my post. I can already tell you guys this is going to be a multiple week topic because we have to get through this, but I have to explain it in order. So in order to explain this, let's show the U.S. military bragging about their new capabilities of taking down any incoming object using directed energy weapons. These aren't lasers you can see. This is all invisible to the naked eye. And go ahead and play that up whenever you get a second, producer.
The U.S. Navy faces many threats. One representative threat is unmanned aerial systems, or UASs. Conventional weapons, such as missiles and projectiles, are important to ship defense, but they're expensive, limited, and require time to engage a target. High-energy lasers augment conventional systems by providing speed-of-light engagements with reduced collateral damage at tactically significant ranges, with cost savings realized by minimizing the use of defensive missiles and projectiles. The Naval Sea Systems Command's Directed Energy and Electric Weapons Systems Program Office, or PMS 405, is investigating the use of high-energy laser systems on Navy surface ships. One such system is the Navy Laser Weapon System, or LAWS. The Directed Energy Warfare Office, or DEWO, of the Naval Surface Warfare Center in Dahlgren, Virginia, is the technical direction agent for LAWS. NSWC Dahlgren has been performing laser research, development, test, and evaluation for decades. LAWS is a system under development that tracks targets and engages them by combining 6 high-energy lasers into one powerful beam of light. The current LAWS prototype consists of the laser sources, power systems, cooling units, sensors, tracking and control hardware, and a custom beam director on a Kamito mount. The mount moves the LAWS beam director to keep the laser pointed at the target. LAWS is planned to be integrated with and complement the capabilities of the Mark 15 Close-In Weapon System, or CWIS. CIWS is a computer-controlled, rapid-fire, radar-guided 20mm autocannon that shoots at close-in air and surface threats. CIWS was developed by the Program Executive Office for Integrated Warfare Systems, or PEO-IWS 3BC, along with its prime contractor, Raytheon Missile Systems. In 2009, LAWS was tested against UASs in a desert environment at the Naval Air Warfare Center in China Lake, California. A team of scientists and engineers from NSWC Dahlgren, Computer Sciences Corporation Innovative Science and Technology Experimentation Facility, Pennsylvania State University Electro-Optics Center, and L3 Brashear set up and operated the LAWS system and instrumentation. The CIWS was not part of this test. The UASs were launched and flew a realistic flight pattern for engagement by the LAWS system at tactical distances. The test at China Lake was a complete success, locating, tracking, and shooting down 5 UASs at different ranges. Each of them caught fire, lost control, fell to the desert floor, and crashed, causing complete destruction of the UAS. The test demonstrated the capability of the LAWS system. Over the water.
Okay, we can cut it there, I suppose. Okay. You know, there you go, guys. That is the U.S. military bragging about their current directed energy weapons, and that's high-powered laser. Now, you're going to all say, oh, of course, that's laser. I'm going to read you from the Directed Energy Warfare Office. This is linked on my site as well. They have their whole PDF available for download. This comes from Navy.mil. Right below high-energy lasers, there's a screenshot I've got on there. It's a picture, and I'm going to read it to you. It says HPM, high-powered microwaves. High-powered microwaves, HPM, offers a unique warfighting capability for non-lethal, non-kinetic missions. HPM systems are capable of engaging multiple targets, re-attack, and dramatically reduce collateral damage and reconstruction costs. This capability opens targets for which no engagement option currently exists. Okay? Now, high-powered microwaves, again, fall under the radar spectrum. The HAARP, even going down into, now we're not going to be talking about microwaves here, but with HAARP, we're talking about high frequency. Now, below this post, there is a thing that appeared on the Weather Channel, of all things, a 30-minute broadcast on weather modification where they fully delve into the development of tornadoes using microwaves. And this is something that I had observed on live radar for multiple years, and then now has been confirmed that it can be done using laboratory tests. A doctor from MIT did the experiments using a small laser to simulate high-powered microwaves in the atmosphere to produce rotation. And it was his idea that they could generate man-made tornadoes and harness the energy to power a city. He did the experiments. It worked. Now, this is something that the U.S. military knows through experiments done at HAARP in Alaska, using high frequency, not microwaves. Now, HAARP in Alaska did an experiment at the start of 2013. The U.S. Naval Research Labs, and we're scrolling down the page here, below the pictures of tornadoes being developed by microwaves, we have a U.S. Navy experiment where they generated plasma, a huge bubble sphere ring of plasma in the atmosphere for over an hour using HAARP at 4.34 megahertz. Now, to put that in perspective, it's the power behind HAARP that is enabling that. It is the billion watts that is behind HAARP that's generating a huge plasma bubble multiple kilometers wide at a very far distance from the transmitter. But what the potential use for this is, they were able to move the bubble around using another transmitter, a radar transmitter. It's amazing to really think about this. They're able to generate a plasma bubble and then move it using other frequency. Now, how are they able to do that? How are you able to generate a plasma bubble to begin with? Well, just like Michio Kaku told you, for weddings, using a high-powered laser to strip electrons to cause an electron cascade, literally the precursor to lightning, the same thing can be done with high frequency at 4.34 megahertz at 1 billion watts. And the U.S. Navy bragged about it, and it's a potential missile defense apparatus. Think about it. A huge multiple kilometer wide plasma bubble that can be generated at a moment's notice and moved around at almost the speed of light, let's say. That means that incoming missiles are a thing of the past. Now, they were able to image the plasma on radar, and it looked like a W shape or an S, a little bit bigger than an S, maybe an E. But it looked like an actual signature on the radar, on their VAHF observations. Now, we're going to go to break. When we get back, I'm going to wrap up this first part, and we'll hopefully be able to take some callers.